Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Om Sahana Bhavatu
Navavatu Sahanau Bhunatu
Saviram
Sahaviram
Karavavahai
Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamasma Vidyavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So the 13th verse of the 7th chapter, let us chant it. Tribhirgunamai bhavaihi
Tribhirgunamairbhavairebhihi
ebhis sarvamidam jagat
Ebhi sarvamidam jagat
mohitam nabhijanati
Mohitam nabhijanati
mamebhyah paramavyayam.
Mamebhyah paramavyayam.
So, up to now, in the last few classes, we saw a presentation on what is the nature of Easwara. And what did we see? To summarize it, Easwara is a mixture of Brahman and Maya, which we called Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti. Chaitana Tattvam, Achetana Tattvam. That is to say, matter plus consciousness together at the Samashti level. That is Easwara. That Easwara alone is the creator of the universe, the maintainer of the universe, and the resolution ground of the universe. So, Srishti, Sthiti, Laya Karanam of Jagat, that Easwara alone is. That Easwara alone manifests as the entire world. Therefore, Easwara is the Karanam and the world is the Karyam. What we have to note here is that when you say Easwara is the Karanam and the world is the Karanam, or is the Karyam, we may be tempted to think of the gold being the Karanam and the necklace being the Karyam, which is a good example which we use, but we should always note that there is a very crucial difference between Easwara as Karanam and Jagat as Karyam, and the gold as Karanam and the necklace as Karyam. What is that crucial difference? In understanding the two examples, understanding the example or in extending the example of gold necklace, which is the Karanam Karyam example, to Easwara Jagat, there is a very, very crucial mental note which we must make. And what is that?
Acharya,
Yes.
it's gold, it's only the Upadana Karanam.
Okay.
In case of Easwara, it's both Upadana and Nimitta Karanam.
That is one example. And that is one explanation, which is a very good one. What about another one? Yes, Rashmiji.
I mean, there is a loss of quality, whereas obviously Paraprakriti doesn't transform.
No, Brindaji, can you repeat? We didn't hear the first part of what you said.
I said the gold gets transformed into the necklace.
Okay. But that is exactly what we say, that Maya gets transformed into the world. It is the same.
Yeah, but Paraprakriti remains the same, isn't it? That remains as it is.
Yes, you can say Brahman is Vivarta Upadana Karanam, but Maya is definitely Parinami Upadana Karanam. But the
Yeah, yes.
crucial difference is that in the gold and the necklace example, both are Vyavaharika Satyam. And in Ishvara and Jagat, one is Paramarthika Satyam and one is Vyavaharika Satyam, that you must remember. Okay. If you don't remember that, then you will never be able to understand the objections that other darshanas make. Because it is only in Vedanta that we have the concept of Paramarthika and Vyavaharika Satyam, of Satyam and Mithya. All other darshanas, for them, Paraprakriti is Satyam and so is Aparaprakriti. And therefore, they run into all sort of contradictions. Okay, so this particular idea one must remember always. Okay, having said that, we now go to this 13th verse. So having understood what Ishvara is, what is the benefit? What is the prayojanam of knowing the real nature of Ishvara? The real nature of Ishvara enables you to free yourselves from samsara. And therefore comes the question, if knowing Ishvara is important to free myself from samsara, I should know what exactly is samsara. And therefore this verse, it deals with samsara karanam. What is samsara? What is the cause? Why is it important? Because unless you know the cause, knowing the cause is called the diagnosis. Unless you know the diagnosis of your problem, how can you correctly treat the problem? And therefore the cause is very important, right? Now you might say that we said Ishvara is the very karanam, both vivarta upadana karanam as well as parinami upadana karanam. Or you can say that Ishvara is the nimitta karanam as well as the upadana karanam. I hope you recognize the differences between these things, okay? We talked about nimitta karanam, we talked about vivarta upadana karanam, we talked about parinami upadana karanam. Is everybody clear on what these three things mean?
Yes.
Anybody who is
Yes.
not clear? No. Fine. So let's go ahead. And therefore, since you said that the entire universe is nothing separate from Ishvara, then why should there be any problem at all? Why should there be sorrow? Why should there be samsara at all? This is a valid question. If Ishvara was not the world, then you can say the world is different from Ishvara, therefore I have a problem. But here you are saying that Ishvara is the very world. If the very Jagat itself is nothing but Ishvara, then why should there be sorrow? So the answer is that Ishvara has two natures, Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti. We saw that so far. And that is why the definition was there. To tell you that the very fact that Ishvara has two forms, one higher form and one lower form. The higher form is what? The formless, all-pervading, changeless principle. And the lower form is what? The changing, full of form, full of beauty, objects of the world, which the sense organs can recognize, right? You must remember that the sense organs have been designed to recognize changing objects, recognize apara prakriti only. The sense organs do not have the capacity to recognize para prakriti. And because sense organs recognize only apara prakriti, and what is our, upbringing or even the very nature that we have, that whatever we recognize through our sense organs we appreciate, we say it is there, it exists. But Paraprakriti does not have Shabda, it's not available to your ears, does not have Sparsha, not available to your touch, does not have Rupa, not available to your eyes, does not have Rasa, not available to your tongue, does not have Gandha, not available to your nose. Your five sense organs have no capacity to recognize Paraprakriti. And that's why we say Paraprakriti is aprameya. We said in second chapter, not an object of perception by any of the sense organs. But the problem is that my sense organs are always focused on the world. And the world is very beautiful, very tempting, very attractive, and constantly changing Aparaprakriti. And therefore, I am always occupied by the world. You start with your own body. My body keeps me terribly busy all the time, right? My hair is gray or my hair is not gray. The skin color, should I use some, agent to discolor my skin or lighten the color of my skin? What is my lipstick? What is my nail polish? So many things I have. What is the texture of my skin? Do I have six-pack muscles or not? So the bodies keep you busy all the time, and especially your own body. And if your own body, the times when your own body doesn't keep you busy, the bodies of others keep you busy. You are busy appreciating the bodies of somebody else. And therefore, bodies are the body here, of course, is a upalakshanam, a generic term for the entire world. Any object of the world, always keeps you busy. And so Krishna says, Tribhir gunamaihi bhavaihi. Bhava represents objects. And here, Krishna doesn't very specifically state what sort of objects it represents. So Shankaracharya adds over here that this bhavaihi is multiple, that is plural. So bhava represents not only all the external objects, but also your internal objects. When you say internal objects, what do you mean?
The thoughts, emotions.
The thoughts.
Thoughts and emotions. Okay. So the idea is that you are surrounded by objects. External world, you have objects. Internal world, you have thoughts. So there is no way you can ever get away from the objects. And gunamai. So mayat. The word gunamai, the mai comes from the word mayat. So gunamayat. Mayat literally means modification or vikara. So it can also mean, there's in Sanskrit, we see the dictionary, the word mayat can also mean prachuryam. Prachuryam means a dominance of, a predominance of. So gunamai, what is modified? What is the vikara of gunamai? Vikara is of gunas. And therefore, abhi bhavaha. If you see the words, abhi bhavaha. These objects are produced how? Tribihi gunamai, by the modifications of the three gunas. And when the three gunas get modified, what is produced? So modification can be taken as change also. I mean, it's basically it is change. Vikara means change. I'm saying modified can mean change. So when these gunas change is a better word because we know that the gunas are constantly changing. So when the gunas change, what is produced? Raga, for example, is born from which guna?
Rajo.
Rajoguna. Dvesha is born from which guna?
Tamas.
No. Dvesha is also born from Rajas.
Mhm.
What is born from Tamas?
Laziness,
Sleep.
inertness,
Nidra, alas, pramad.
Nidra, alas, pramada. What is the basic, these are all very basic concepts. They are going back to Tattva Bodha. What is the basic change that occurs in you because of tamas?
Sleep.
Sleep. Okay.
Avidya.
Which is called what? Moha is born from tamas. Okay. Remember that Dvesha and Raga is Rajas dominant. One from Rajas, Moha is born from tamas. So all these guna, all these changes, Dvesha, Moha, Raga, all these are born from three gunas alone. And therefore he says, Idam Sarvam Jagat. This entire universe, right? And the entire universe, Shankara says, you should take only the jivas, only, not even the jivas, only the human beings. Why? Shankara's comments are very, apt over here. So he says, you take Sarvam Jagat not as the whole universe, but only as the human race. Why does he say so?
Because we are talking of liberation, which is linked to Svecha, and that is only
We
That
will
is
only.
exactly. Human beings are the only ones who got free will. And therefore, Shankara says, take it as humanity. Of course, when you say entire universe, you should exclude the whole bunch over here, yeah, in this group. Why? This Idam Saram Jagat doesn't include all of us. Another good reason for that is what? Come on, guys. You should know why you are not included in this deluded by tamas.
Because they're studying Gita.
Because you are Vedantic students.
Yes.
So there are two things to be understood from here. Students on the Shastric path who have come to Vedanta are excluded from Idam Saram Jagat Mohitaha. They are not deluded. And you have to take it only as humanity. Right? So you remember that we had a verse. Palastavat Krida Saktaha, Tarunastavat Taruni Saktaha, Vriddasthavat Chinta Saktaha, Parame Brahmani Gopina Saktaha. Where did you find it?
Bhaja Govindam.
Bhaja Govindam. What does it mean? The entire world is running after these things. Parame Brahmani Gopina Saktaha. Where is the time for inquiry into Vedanta? Again, it doesn't apply to you guys because you're already there. It doesn't apply to any spiritual seeker. And Mohitam, this person is Aviveki. He is deluded. He doesn't know the difference between Nitya and Anitya Vastu. And therefore, what happens? Mam ebhyaha param avyayam. Mam ebhyaha param avyayam. Last line. Na abhijanati. So Mohitam, because the Mohitam applies to Ebhi Sarvam Idam Jagat, excepting Vedantic students, because the entire universe is Mohitam, deluded. Therefore, the conclusion is Mam Ebhya Param Avyayam Na Abhijanati. They do not come to know me, Mam. Which Mam? Param Avyayam. That nature of mine, which is not subject to change, which is Shashvatam, which is Param, Na Abhijanati, these people do not know. They do not understand that Ishvara has a higher nature which does not change. Okay, they don't know Paraprakriti. Then you might say, okay, I don't know Paraprakriti, fine. But I know Aparaprakriti. Why cannot I just indulge myself in Aparaprakriti? What is the answer? Aparaprakriti cannot give you Purnatvam. Cannot ever make you Purnam, because everything within Apara Prakriti is Apurnaha. It is finite in nature. It is bound by time and space. Whatever is bound by time and space will come and will go. It will never give you fulfillment. Purnatvam. Purnatvam goes only with jnanam, only with paraprakriti. And therefore Shastra points out that only paraprakriti can grant you purnatvam. Anything within apara prakriti, there will always be a constant sense of non-fulfillment. As long as you hold on to apara prakriti, you will constantly feel a sense of apurnatvam, that I need something more. Because everything that happens in apara prakriti is always changing. And that is what Shankara says, Ma kuru dhamajana yauvanam garvam harati nimeshat kalaha sarvam maya mayam idam akhilam hitva brahma padam tvam ravisha viditva. Right? It is the same thing. Because ma kuru dhana jana yauvana garvam. Ma kuru garvam. Do not have pride. In what? Dhana, jana, yavana. Dhana is wealth. Jana, people around you. Yavanam is your youthfulness. Why should you not have pride? Harati nimeshat. In one moment, harati, it will all be taken away. Sarvam harati nimeshat. Everything will be taken away in one moment. In the nimesham is basically a wink. In the winking of an eyelid, everything can be taken away. By what? Kalaha. By Lord Yama. Or you can take the time also. Everything can be taken away. And therefore, what should you do? Maya mayam idam akhilam hitva. Maya mayam means having the nature of Maya. Maya mithya. Akhilam hitva. Idam akhilam hitva. This entire world, you should understand, is Maya mayam. Has got the nature of mithya. And having understood this, Brahma padam tvam pravisha viditva. Viditva, having understood this truth, may you enter Brahma padam. May you get moksha. Right? So, he's saying that today you may have people around you. Today you may have a lot of money. Today you may have a higher post. Today you may have six packs. Do not have garvam. Because harati nimeshat kalaha sarvam. And you require something shashvatam to hold on to. What shashvatam is eternal to hold on to. What is that chain which you hold on to? It is Ishvara. When you hold on to the Ishvara chain, then only can you enjoy the world. Because you know that if the current pulls my legs away, I am holding on to the chain. The chain is my anchor. And Krishna is saying that this is not known by most people. Most ajnanis, or all ajnanis, they don't know this. And therefore they suffer. Therefore they are in samsara. Because everybody wants purnatva. Right? Everybody wants to be permanent. Nobody wants to die. So everybody wants purnatvam. And here when we are saying everybody wants not to die, remember that it is an expression of what? Not from the body point of view, but from the consciousness point of view. Somewhere deep within you, you know that you are not the body, that you are not temporary, that you cannot die. But nobody really has understood that. Therefore, from everything which is ashashvatam, everything which is non-eternal, you expect shashvatam, purnatvam, the eternal. And therefore you suffer, because you are expecting something from the impermanent, which the impermanent cannot give you. Impermanence can never give you permanence, and you're expecting that, and that is why you suffer, because that expectation is there. Again, remember that we are not saying that you turn your back on the world, you become a sannyasi, you renounce apara prakriti. No. Use apara prakriti for enjoyment. Jump into the river Ganga, enjoy the swim, but hold on to para prakriti for security. You can enjoy the flow of the river only if you are holding the chain. As you will know, if you have gone to Rishikesh and jumped into the waters, it immediately pulls you away, The chain is not there. That is the end of it. Okay, now we look at the next mantra. We will chant. Daivi Hesha Gunamayi
Esha Gunamayi
Mama Maya Duratyaya
Mama
Maya
Duratya
Mameva Ye Prapadyante
Mamiva Ye Prapadyante
Maya Metam Tarantite.
Mamitam Tarantite.
Okay. So, Esha, so Daivi Hi Esha. So you take Esha from there and Maya from the next same line, but the 1, 2, 3, fifth word. So Esha Maya, this Maya, this Apara Prakriti, which is what? Which is constantly changing, which is full of gunas, which is capable of giving moha, deluding the human mind. That Maya, Durathyaya, is extremely powerful. And it cannot be overcome very easily. Why so? Gunamayi. It has got gunas. It is the nature of gunas. It has got 3 gunas. And there will be a detailed study of the 3 gunas in a much later chapter, in chapter 14. Until then, we simply understand that this Maya has got 3 gunas. And I've explained to you earlier that when you say Maya, don't think of the gunas as the attributes of Maya. The best example is the braid of a girl, choti, as you call it in Hindi. It has 3 strands. The 3 strands, when woven together or when put interleaved together, they are called the braid. Right? So you look at the braid, you're actually looking at 3 strands. When the girl says, I've got a braid, it is equivalent to saying that I've got 3 strands. Right? The 3 strands put together, interwoven together, they are called the braid. Similarly, these 3 gunas interwoven together, it is called Maya. We are saying Maya has 3 gunas, but Maya is the 3 gunas. That is why when you say you have a body, you are saying I am built up of 3 gunas. And therefore, there will be times when I am sattvic. There will be times when I am rajasic. There will be times when I am tamasic. Nobody can escape the trap of the 3 gunas. How do you, when we say nobody can escape the trap of the 3 gunas, are you therefore saying that, you can never escape the trap? So I don't know, how many of you studied physics? Archimedes, he once said that give me a lever long enough and a place to stand and I can move the world. Anybody remember this? It's a statement made by Archimedes. He says, give me a long lever and a place to stand and I will move the world. What does it mean? How is it applicable here? When you say, give me a lever long enough and a place to stand, what is implied? That I need a place to stand outside the world. Standing within the world, you cannot move the world. Right? If you need to move a rock, to give a that example on a smaller scale. Suppose there is a big rock is there. You have a lever and you want to move the rock with that lever. What do? You put the lever under the rock, and then you step away and then try to move it. Therefore, you have to move away from that object to be able to get out of that object. You need to see yourself as separate from the three gunas. You know, Swami Dayanand, he used to say, to get out of the hold of Maya, you have to be out of the hold. You know, to be get out of the hold of the Maya, you have to be out of the hold. And as long as you are under the hold, you cannot get out of the hold. It's not to be taken literally. It just means you need the right technique. You need the right commitment. And therefore Krishna says, Duratyaya. Extremely difficult. Okay. And this Apara Prakriti, which is Gunamayi, which consists of three gunas. Where is the location? He says Daivi. Daivi means here it belongs to Ishvara. It belongs to me, the Para Prakriti. So that same Maya which you are trying to get rid of. Number one, you have to stand away from that Maya. Number two, remember it is basically you. Because Para Prakriti is who? Is Ishvara. Para Prakriti is you. And therefore, what are you trying to do? You are trying to stand away from you and then get away from that Maya. What is the solution? So he says, Ye mameva prapadyante. Those people who worship me, those who surrender to me, which means what? As a jiva, you require help. You require the grace of the Lord to cross the ocean of samsara. And when we say grace of the Lord, he is saying worship me. Bhajans you do, kirtans you do. But when you do bhajans and kirtans, how does it give you moksha? So you have to understand correctly. When you do bhajans and kirtans, you are worshipping Ishvara. The punyam generated of that from those activities will have to have a result. Ishvara is the karma phala data. So if you have the right sankalpa while you are doing all these karma, upasana, etc., Ishvara will bring to you a teacher. That teacher will give you the shastram, and the shastram will give you moksha. Therefore, obliquely he is saying, don't hold on to your teacher. Teacher is only the medium. Hold on to the shastram, because it is a shastram which will enable you to discover that Ishvara is nobody but you. But to start with, you have to depend upon the teacher who can take as Ishvara. And therefore, mameva te prapadyante. The only way to break the spell of Maya is to move away from the changeable. Changeable means apara prakriti, to the unchangeable, which is para prakriti. And then etam mayam taranti. Only such people, they will cross over this Maya. Taranti means cross over or swim over. Only the persons who have surrendered to me, they will cross the ocean of samsara. Therefore, solution here is sharanagati. Okay, sharanagati means surrender, means bhakti. And what exactly is this sharanagati? Krishna himself will clarify slightly later. At this point, we can point out that this bhakti, this devotion, this worship, the moment you start say worship, you're talking about bhakti, devotion. And Krishna will point out that Ishvara can be looked at from various angles. One is as the means for your laukika ends, for your worldly desires, as the fulfiller of your worldly desires. What is that? Artha, kama, dharma. right? Ishvara is the means, material desires are the end. Therefore, artha, kama, dharma, these are the end, and you are using the Lord as a means. So this is the one form of bhakti, which is very much bhakti, and this is where 99% of the world is. God is the means and worldly things are the end. And Shastra call this Manda Bhakti. Manda means blind bhakti or the dull bhakti. So the lowest form of bhakti for a person who has not really understood what the Lord is. This is Manda Bhakti, but this is where you start. So there's nothing to look down upon, is the place where people start. Lower than this will be those who don't have bhakti at all. So that we are excluding from this discussion, because this is Vedanta. And even if you take Saguna Ishvara as the end, you can be broadly included here. So here it is for people who recognize that there is a Lord. Okay, so that is, you start with that. There is a Lord who is different from me and I worship him because he is capable of giving me, a lot of things, money, position, children, all that he can give me. And therefore, Lord is a means, world is the end. So that's the first way of understanding the Lord. Then, as you keep on for several years, sometimes several lifetimes, doing this individual bhakti, where you are one, the Lord is the other, and you are constantly asking, right? And if you see all the temples in India, what strikes you? Everybody goes there and says, give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that. This is that bhakti. 99% of the world is there. But as you evolve, as you do more and more of this bhakti, you evolve. You become more mature. And then you have to move one step higher, which is called Madhyama Bhakti, where Lord has stopped being the means. Lord has become the end. Because Ishvara is now the objective. Earlier on, Ishvara was the means and the world was the objective. Now you have recognized that in the world, everything is called limitation. And the only limitless entity is Ishvara. And therefore, you have moved towards Ishvara as the goal. Ishvara is now the goal, right? So initially, you were dependent upon the world. Now you are depending upon Ishvara. Because you have realized that the world cannot give me what I want. It's not dependable. Therefore, from world dependence, you have moved to Ishvara dependence. And the final level of bhakti is called Uttama Bhakti, where you have discovered that Ishvara is not the end at all. Why? Because that Ishvara is mine, is me, myself. And therefore, you are neither the means nor the end. The Lord Ishvara is you, yourself. So when you reach a state where the Lord is you, which means that the Lord is neither Ishvara as the means nor Ishvara as the end, but Ishvara as myself. That is what is called moksha, right? And in the 10th chapter, Krishna says, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe Arjuna tishtati. The Lord that you are seeking, hey Arjuna, is in your own heart. Okay. Remember, we are not saying here that having bhakti is a problem. And Swami Dayananda very beautifully says, bhakti is never a problem. The problem arises when I attempt to morph that bhakti into a philosophy, when I attempt to create a philosophy out of the bhakti. So what kind of philosophy? You will come out saying that in Kali Yuga, chanting the name of the Lord is sufficient for moksha. So there are statements like that, So you have to say mantra Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. But then you will say, no, I have to say Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, because I won't say Rama first, because I'm Krishna Bhakt. And therefore, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, but not Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Why? These are all distortions of the philosophy. Your bhakti has to be one of these three. You cannot distort that into saying that Krishna alone is the Lord. Right? There are many sects in India today also who say that Krishna is the Lord. Krishna avatar is the Lord, and there is no Krishna apart from that. There is no Lord apart from the Krishna avatar. Right? There are people who say that Ishvara, you are a part of Ishvara. You can never be Ishvara. You can only be a part of Ishvara. All these are distortions of the proper understanding of what is moksha. That's why Swamiji says that as long as distortions are there, you will always have problems. Okay. Now let us look at verse number 15. We will chant. Namam dushkritino moodaha
नमां दुष्कृतिनो मूढाः
prapadyante naradhamaha
प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः
maya paharatya jnanaha asuram bhavamashvitaha
आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः
भावमाश्रिताः.
Okay, so we are moving on further, and here what is being said, Shankara says in the beginning of this sloka is an answer to a question. What is the question? In the earlier sloka, Krishna said that you have to surrender, right? And Sharanagati, the way of surrender, is available to all people, because anybody can choose to surrender. And when Krishna says that you surrender to me and get moksha, then why does everybody not take advantage of that and utilize that route? So the answer is given in this sloka, in which is very briefly, the answer is that the required punyam is not there in a person. If a required punyam is not there in a person, he will not be born under circumstances or in an environment where there is value for moksha or value for spirituality, which means he will be born in a culture which is artha kama pradhanam. In other words, it's a materialistic culture where the premium is on entertainment and security and fulfillment of desires only. And so Krishna says, dushkritinaha. Dushkritina means papinaha. Those who do not have adequate punyam, because they have so much papa. And it can mean a lot of things. It can mean nastikas. It can mean people who do not have the necessary punyam to get them out of Veda Purva. They may have punyam, but they don't have enough to get them out of the karma kanda. And so he says, Maya aparat jnanaha. So jnana, Maya aparata. Aparata means abducted. What is abducted? Jnanam. Who is abducted? Maya. And therefore, jnana Maya aparataha. That jnanam, that discriminative knowledge has been kidnapped by Maya. And therefore, these people are busy in the running after artha and kama, money, entertainment, desires, and whole time they need to be entertained. So you will find people, especially retired people, they would have, in our days, we used to have, first of all, we had no TV. Then we had TV with 2 channels, right? Then we had TV with a maximum of 5 channels, out of which 4 were Doordarshan. And we were all very happy. But today, you have 500 channels and even that is not sufficient. In our days, TV used to come in the morning for 2 hours and 3 hours in the evening. But now you have channels 24 hours. Why do we do that? Because you need to be busy. Maya keeps you extremely busy. And the more busy you are, the less time you have for anything which is Shastra. Right? And that is the job of Maya. And you can easily see people losing money, people having other people deserting them. Impermanence is there constantly. That is the job of Maya. Showing you or making you aware of the fact that everything is impermanent. But what is this? What is the tragedy? That whenever something happens, whenever somebody loses a lot of money or somebody loses close relatives, you think it happens to others. You will not make the connection and say, today it has happened to him, tomorrow it can happen to me. And therefore, your discriminative capacity, Maya aparataha, has been abducted by Maya. That obsession with worldly pleasures, that has made you, blind to the fact that everything is temporary. It can happen to you also. And therefore, you're a mudaha. And Krishna says, you are a mudaha. Shankara says, okay, let me tell you what exactly Krishna meant when he said mudaha. Shankara says very beautifully, mudaha means anityam nityatvena bhavayati. The one who takes impermanent anityam nityatvena bhavayati, he takes it as permanent. This is called muda. Another word we use for such a understanding is adhyasaha. Superimposing the wrong things onto an object. Superimposing temporary things onto you who are permanent. But since you are a mudaha, you don't know anything, right? But this mudaha, the problem is what? He thinks he knows everything. And therefore, why should you come to a teacher? Why should you pick up the books which is so boring? Therefore, they become naradhamaha. So, naradhamaha is nara adhamaha. Adhamaha means lowest. Nara means human beings. So, narana madhye adhamaha. The lowest among human beings is what is meant by naradhamaha. They are very unfortunate people, which is to say they are inferior in the sense that they have no spirituality. So nikrishtaha is the word we use, inferior. But in the spiritual sense of the term, inferior does not mean that they have to be poor or handicapped or anything. They may be successful in business. They may be crore-patis. They may be materialistically very successful people, very powerful people having a lot of power. Why? Because for that also punyam is required, right? So in previous lives, they would have done sufficient punyam to give them all this. But unfortunately, from the spiritual angle, they have failed to realize that the human life can accomplish the goal of moksha, which is the most valuable goal ever. Even a karodpati or a multiple karodpati cannot compare to a person who has accomplished the goal of moksha, and therefore nikrishta. Why? Because they have used that very precious human life for what purpose? For material purposes only, for building of wealth. And therefore he says, asuram bhavam ashritaha. Ashritaha means they have resorted to asuram bhavam. They have resorted to the mindset of a asura. All of them start with not knowing the difference between Satyam and Mithya. But sooner or later, because of that confusion, they end up with not knowing the difference between Dharma, Adharma, And once you are incapable of recognizing the difference between dharma and adharma, you become corrupt. So in you will find that your satisfaction is in running after artha and kama. And when you run after artha and kama, you will find that any amount of artha kama you get, you always want more. There is always desire for more. And when you desire for more and more, the catch is that sooner or later, you will find that the legal means, legitimate means, those desires cannot be fulfilled. You can have legitimate means for fulfilling desires up to a particular level. But when you want more than that, you will find that your legitimate efforts are not sufficient. Therefore, what you will do, you will compromise, you will step onto the path of illegality, of adharma. And in your own mind, you will say it is okay, and you keep justifying and justifying and justifying. Very soon, you will stop thinking about it as adharma. For you, it becomes a way of life. Your life becomes adharma predominant. And this life, Krishna calls asurik swabhavaha. So asura is, there is a definition for asura. Asusu ramate iti asuraha. Asuhu means the sense organs. So asusu ramate iti asuraha. The one who revels in the sense organs, he is a asura. And Shankara gives a further definition. He says, asura bhavaha, asuram bhavaha. It means hinsa anruttavadi lakshana, means a tendency to hurt others, to tell lies. And that means having false or undesirable values like cheating and stealing and etc. It won't be long before you get to murder also. Such a person, how can he have place for Ishvara in his life? And therefore, what should you do? That is what is the basic idea, that you should start by dropping all these things. You should start understanding that in this life, any amount of success you get, it is always temporary. It will go. The life itself will go. And who knows whether in the next life you will be a human being. Shankara says, thousands of lives later only you get a human birth. One human birth comes in thousands of lives. And having got this human birth, how foolish it is to waste it on the pursuit of material wealth. So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions? No questions. Okay. Sure?
Acharya,
Yes, John.
so in verse 7:13,
Yeah.
when we were saying that Ishvara is in Paramartika Satyam,
Yeah.
and Jagat is Vyavaharika Satyam,
Yeah.
when we say that Ishvara is Paramartika Satyam, we just referring to the Paraprakriti nature of
Part of it.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
See, remember that one very, very basic, idea, which is there in all these things, is that when you look at the gold necklace, as long as you continue to see the necklace, you are seeing the mithya part. But when you recognize the necklace as gold, then there is nothing else left. The name and form which you are seeing, that is mithya. But the substance is gold. And that's why we talked about the fact that Brahman, Akarta, Abhokta, Maya, Upadana Karanam, mixture is Ishvara. But Maya is dependent upon, and Maya, the very definition is what? Potential, name and form. Namarupa alone is Maya. The Namarupa don't exist. They are only on the tip of your tongue. They are words only.
Thank
You need to, ruminate it for ages, because Maya, if you can understand, then there's something wrong with you. Maya is anirvachaniyam. It cannot be understood. It has to be just accepted that this is Maya.
Om sir, which is that sentence which you mentioned about only a word on the mouth?
Vacharambhanam.
Vacharambanam namadheyam. This is from Chandogya Upanishad.
Right.
So we'll do
Okay.
sooner or
Thank you.
later, assuming that you all stick on long enough.
So it's easier to understand Brahman than Maya.
Yes, that is very true. But then without understanding Maya, you can never really get to Brahman. So it's all a massive complex. See, ultimately, if you look at it, the simplest way is to say that nothing exists but Brahman. That conviction, Sarvam Brahman, that is what Shastra is trying to bring about. Shastra is the very Tatparyam of Shastram is not to explain to you what is Maya. Because understanding Maya thoroughly has no prayojanam. Understanding that you are Brahman, only that has prayojan. So you will find that, in fact, you will find that in different Upanishads, when they talk about creation, you will find that there is an inconsistency in the approaches, So some Upanishad will say there are 3 elements, some will say there are 5 elements. And therefore, what does it prove? When there is inconsistency, the commentators say that it is an indication that don't pay too much attention to the details, because they are not important at all. But across all the Upanishads, Brahman description is consistent. And therefore that is a Tatparyam. So I had given you one small little verse on Shadlingani. I don't know if you remember. What are the 6 lingams? That verse you should go back and study. And whenever we talk about Shastram, whenever we discuss any particular chapter, any particular important sentences, try to correlate those 6 lingams, those 6 indicators, and see whether do they apply here or not.
Sir, was it that Upakrama Upasamhara?
Yes, Upakara Upasam. That's the
Right. Right.
Abhyaso Purvata Phalam.
yeah.
Hmm.
If you apply that, you will be able to make out what is the Tatparyam of a particular text.
Somebody put it in the group again, please.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Acharya.
Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Devavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, sir.
Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.